Okay, it's time for another wild wake up video. I'm sitting here and thinking about how every so often YouTube will highlight that somebody's commented on a video I've posted or liked a comment I've posted. And it's interesting to me to see these old comments or the old content that isn't really on my mind at the moment, and to get an insight into where I've been up to with stuff and like what I feel is important to give my attention to, what it provokes for me, what I end up contributing to the discussion for my part. And seeing that, I realize it's a very interesting way to see ourselves in more of a third person kind of way, through the eyes of others. What would I think if I came across this comment and it wasn't mine, right? And I think that's probably a really good exercise to imagine that everything you've done in your life is erased except for your online comments. And someone in the future has to be able to gain a picture, create a picture of you in their head that is a result of simply reading your online comments. Would that line up with the kind of person you perceive yourself to be or are striving to be in your life? Or would you say, no, wait, hold on a minute. It's, you got to understand it was because this guy said this thing. What is it? Like, what do we put out there and how does it represent us? Because this is a new frontier. Nobody's giving us maps. But it occurs to me that there is a way in which this does create a picture of who we are, and should good people try to evaluate our character by it, I wonder if we'd be proud. And if dark forces came to manipulate and exploit us, would we have made ourselves easy pickings? Would we make easy targets of ourselves in what we put out there? And to think about how we are creating another identity in the world through this kind of engagement. And I'm happy to say that I enjoy seeing the comments. I have yet to come across one where I really cringe, which may be a sign of slowed growth, because I like how Mark Manson says something about, like, if you don't look back at what you were doing a few years ago and cringe, you're not growing. But I think that there's a continuity in the growth I'm experiencing. It's less and less divergent as I become more and more consistent with myself and with the way I live in the world. So, yeah, I think that it's really interesting to see these old remarks come up and be like, okay, if that's all that's left of me, every other work in my life is eradicated, and you can only know me through my online commentary, you're going to get a reasonable picture of who I am. It's pretty consistent with where I'm at and where I'm trying to get to. So I enjoy that, but I also noticed that that could have been otherwise. I could really pull back and say, oh wow, where was I that I shared that, or I remarked about that in that way, or I thought that was funny, or I'm sure I still make plenty of mistakes, but like, the beauty of online is we have a moment to think about it. It takes a moment to type or speak it into the phone, and there's no timer on how long we have to reread what we wrote before we post it. So that's a simple way to start adjusting what we put out there if we find we are off the mark. And it's a good way to be able to evaluate how consistent we're being and what kind of identity we're creating in cyberspace, that we want that to align with our perception of ourselves and the perception we hope to project into the world. And I know it feels like this alternate dimension. It is kind of an alternate dimension, and we're in our own little space with our own little device, blocked off from everything that is. And it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole and just crazy stuff. But it's almost that easy to pause and consider it through this lens. And one, practice being more attentive to where we are in a moment and what arises from that. Then become more present and skillful with harnessing that and shaping what it is we release into the world. And then be observant of what kind of pattern emerges from that, right? These are all opportunities we have for reflection and growth through this process that is very mindless and impulsive. And I get it. I get it. I've definitely jumped in and gotten a little manic in a live chat more than once. But as I go on and I appreciate the impact this has on me moment to moment in practicing it, and what I create in this alternate dimension that we all share, remembering that we all share it, and it's like tattoos, it's forever. These things are helpful in enriching the now and keeping us on course as we move toward a future of our own choosing and our own making. So here's one more way to make our way into the future with greater clarity, presence, consistency, character, and perhaps an identity that we can feel ever more sound with over time. All right, as always, wishing us all better ways forward, and I hope this helps in that process. Thank you. Take care.